Welcome back everyone. I am so sorry that this video took so long. The whole scratch building, I had so much to learn at the same time of doing it. Let's not forget this is my first ever scratch build anything. It's as simple as that. Now I've cut out a big portion of this video at the beginning where I'm sort of doing the design drawings and then mock-ups out of card. I didn't want to bore you to death, so we're going to jump straight into it, straight onto the balsa. Enjoy the video. We have done this section. Now what we need to do is create the curves on the archway, the curve on the door. No reason for it, I just liked how it looked. Like so. Balsa wood, very soft, very easy to cut, but still do not try and cut this in one shot. Not much pressure on the first cut, pressing down, bingo. Carry on. For the top arches of the arch and the doorway, the only way we can do it is freehand. We're going to do a nice very thin score line, very shallow score line, nice and slowly. There we go. So we're through on that one. Nice clean cut. Nothing that a sanding stick won't sort out. Okay, I'm happy with that. Again, sanding stick, rounded edged file. Sort that out, no problem. Okay, right, what's next? Well, clearly we need two of these. So I clamped them together to just show there is two pieces there. Clamped together to just show that we got extremely close to being perfect. There is just, it's not showing up on camera, but just a little bit up here. And all I'm going to do, a nice round edged file, sorry, and we're just going to go over that just gently. That's all it needed. So we are now spot on. I just redid that line there just because it was about 83 high and it was knocking me out. So I've just redone it at 80 high. Now hopefully this should work out. I always have difficulty with this pattern, I don't know why. We've now got two side walls, two ends, and of course the bracing pieces. I'm a little bit nervous about this point, can you tell? Right, we need to cut out these windows. I'm not looking forward to doing this bit. All of them cut out, but like I've said, they do need quite a bit of sanding. That's not an issue. I hope you can see we've got an outer section here, and a bit further in there's a separate section there. This outer section is not visible, it's stuck to the back, and that's the bit that you glue. The visible parts are these skinny bits on the inside going around. Hopefully that makes sense. Well, how's that? What I've actually decided to do is actually cut the frame itself out. which was rather tricky and very time consuming. There is some gaps, but I will get the glued into place, and then tomorrow when the glue's gone off I will get the filler out, fill the gaps in, and we'll be laughing. Okay, so it is now the next day, and as you can see on the inside, on the bottom, there is of course the balsa strips. Now I've designed this, or built this I should say, to go together a bit like a jigsaw. So if I just remove these sides, and as you can see on the bottom sheet here, this sidewall fits perfectly to that notch and is perfectly square edged. So I have just added these small chocks, if you like, or braces, just on the interior, just to hold it together. Just 2 little drops of rocket card glue so I can pull them off when I don't need them. So the reason I've done that is we need to figure out an interior, but this is where it gets interesting, because at Hellifield, if you've ever been up there, there's a very interesting room in one of the buildings, and it is full of point levers, and I want to replicate that. Slightly annoying. I've just done the archway and I have just filmed it, of course. I've gone to put the files on the computer and they have been corrupted, so unfortunately that part of the video is missing, so I'll just explain. I've done the archway just out of some thinner balsa sheets. The curve was just a sheet and it was lightly scored, pressed into position and then glued. The walls are just as you would imagine were done. The top of it, however, I have put the same filler that I used around the window edges. I've covered the whole roof, and that's to stop any light bleed. Which brings us on to the next bit. A bit like a memorabilia room really. So you walk in, there's all the old point levers, you know, there's everything up there. These 3 windows here, this section here, I'm going to recreate that. That's why I've covered the arch roof, to stop any light bleed, because in here what we're going to have is a random light effect. So it'll be on for, you know, 10 seconds or so, and then it'll start flickering, and then it'll go on for 3 seconds. Hopefully you can see is I've put 2, let's say, braces 8mm down from the top. Why have I done this? Well, make sure it's seated properly. Okay, can you see where this is going yet? So firstly, it's a tight fit because it brings everything absolutely dead square, but it's now got a lip which is perfect. So the idea is that the building on top is going to sit on top of here. My first thought is that we need to trim a bit off the bottom of this just to make it sit a bit lower. I'd like sort of the wall, like the gutter line, to maybe sit somewhere around here, just roughly. I'm happy with how it's going, and straight away I prefer that 1,000,000%. I know the angle's a little bit dodgy. That's much better, much more happier with that. Well, the peaks are done. I'm just going to put this together now just to show you with the peaks on. There we go. So that's with the bottom on, and that fits in there just nicely, like so. Hopefully you'll agree, things are coming on very quickly now. Now, I understand it looks a bit silly at the minute because it's just balsa wood. Okay, everything's now arrived. as you can see, it is the, I think it's pronounced ratio or ratio, and it is the signal box interior number 553. We are going to build that, get it painted and get it installed into the building. Now the instructions are not really a step 1, step 2, step 3 type thing. It's just more like a blown up diagram. So I'm just going to start at the top and slowly just work my way down, and we'll do all the painting at the end, I think. I'll get it time lapsed, I won't put you through the misery of watching me trying to figure it out. I'm not sure how much of that you actually saw, because it was very fingers and thumbsy, but we are all built. Much easier than I thought it was going to be. Okie dokie, right, busy day, lots and lots to do. We last left off in the last clip, we were painting these. Well, that is now all complete. The interior is about 90% done. The main structure, we need to fit some lighting in this today, because that's what's holding me up progressing. I can't do anything now until the lighting's fit. So, how are we going to do that? Well, please don't run away, but we are going to use an Arduino Nano. Now, this does require writing code, or as Arduino call it, a sketch. It's not as difficult as it seems, I promise you. I'm not going to deep dive into it today. Fortunately, I have past experience writing code with my dad many years ago, and it's just something I've picked up over time. I've got a bit of apologising to do, I'm afraid. As you can see, I've started making some progress, and I've started to sort of damage the derelict side of it, I guess you could say. I've also fit some glass. It's just clear plastic that comes when you get your points or your track or whatever. So I've cut some little battens, hopefully you can see that, to just go across, and then what will happen is I've cut a hole in the roof, again just recreating the damage that we're after. The battens will spread across. Now I have actually fit the lights in here. I'll show you a sneak peek now, but we'll dig deeper into the lights once I've got this section done. But underneath here, so he says, if you can get it out, ta-da! We'll talk about that once I've done this bit. Fitting the battens is a pretty straightforward job. We're just going to put a tiny dab of super glue on each one, and I'm pretty sure that I've done this the wrong way around. So the battens, ideally, I think these ones here should be running vertical, and then these little ones should be running across. Problem is I've super glued these in, I don't want to risk damaging this side wall. So we're going to have to work with what we've got, I'm afraid. Right, this super glue is not playing ball. And then we'll just go across, repeating the process, leaving a little gap in between. I've made up a load of rubble to help sort of sprinkle in there to make it look again like it's been damaged a long time. Whatever you do, if you use super glue, use it in a very well ventilated area. It's extremely bad for you. Yeah, that's all it needs literally. We just bob this broken piece back on. I just want to point out one thing. Obviously the edges of this at the minute are very smooth, and obviously you can tell it's been cut by a knife. That's fine, because we're going to damage this edge as we go along. Next thing I've done, squeaky chair's back, innit? mixed up some tile grout, spread it out thinly on just a spare bit of wood, and as you can see it's given us some nice bits. Now these are way too big, but as you can see it crumbles lovely. Okay, so we're going to sprinkle some of that in there. I'm going to try and make up some sort of like, I don't know, some bin bags or something like that, just to show that it's like a used loft. I think we should damage some of these battens a little bit. To do that I think we'll use some snips. So let's go a bit there. Just have it drop down like so, and then this chunky one, hopefully it doesn't pop the glue off, which it has done, but I can re-glue that, that's fine. And we'll go a bit there. There we go. Just to give you a closer look, hopefully the camera's picking that up. Dusty effect, like the roof's been caved in for quite some time, and as you can see we're getting it everywhere. But as you can see, hopefully you can see on camera the flickering. Now it is completely random. There will be periods of complete blackout and periods where it's constantly on. So there's a blackout and then they all come back on, and as you can see the two room lights are flickering away. It's quite hard to see on camera, so I do apologise. So this one in the archway, that is constantly on unless blackout, like so. Hopefully you can see it fairly well. Just zoom in a bit. And the room lights are flickering away. Blackout and back on. And then the room lights will go flickering again. Like I say, it's all completely random, and that's the Arduino doing everything. So the Arduino, in my case, the Arduino Nano, it's an absolutely fantastic bit of kit, and how they work is you write code for them, or Arduino call it a sketch. It's not as complicated as it seems, I promise you. They can do 1,000,001 things to your railway, from, as you've seen, controlling the lighting system, but we took mine to the next level to create that, you know, that spooky effect of the flickering lights and things, and then the total blackouts, complete darkness. It's all random, but they can do your points using servos, control all them. Your crossing barriers, control them with them. You can do things like sound. They can react to sound and make an action happen when a certain sound thing hits, all the way to your complete automation, sort of like a shuttle system. And they're cheap. I think this one is an actual Arduino brand, and I believe, if I remember rightly, it was about £18, £19. Arduino have actually made this, so it's open source, so any company can copy this circuit board, and obviously the other branded ones are slightly cheaper. It's up to you. I assure you it's really not as difficult as it sounds. Please take a look at them and just consider them for what they may be capable on your layout. So it's just going to be a black wash. The best thing to do this would be to use a black ink. Unfortunately, I don't have access to any of that. So this will have to do. I have thinned it down, as you've just seen, but I'm not going to thin it too much. So we've got us little black wash. We've got us coffee stirring sticks, and it's going to soak up a lot of the paint, which is why I've not made it so thin. Now as you can clearly see, some of them are a bit longer than others, which is fine. Let's just snap these into smaller ones. Pop the lid on very, very tight. Do a leak test. Lovely. Bit of a shake, and now we can't see nothing. Super quick and simple. I've chosen grey, and we're just sort of going to dry brush some on. Could do with a bigger brush. Hopefully you can see there, adding a little bit of grey powder just breaks them all up from looking exactly the same. Right, we've got to start work on the interior now, and what I mean by that is I know it's all sort of built, but we need to damage it all, and we need to fill it full of rubble and some broken windows, things like that. The same gravel technique, I decided to break these off afterwards because I'd like them to be visible, which means I would have to break them off after, so they sit on top of it. Hello child, what's the matter? That's Jackson, 2 years old, causing chaos as usual. I am 100% happy with that. I'm now going to 50-50 some PVA with water, get it all sealed in, let everything dry overnight. Just changing plan of attack quickly, we're going to concentrate for a little bit on the stonework on the outside of the building. This is the Wills kit, it's SS MP200 coarse stone. I have done a test piece. Let me just get this lined up. So, is that the right way? No, it's not, it's upside down. So there we go. That's the test piece done. That's how it's going to look. Obviously this stonework needs painting and weathering. But we'll do that once it's on the actual building. Makes it a lot easier that way. So whilst I was waiting for the batteries to charge on the camera, I made a start. Now, it's by no means perfect, there is gaps here and there, but I think with the weathering and obviously the sort of damaged derelict effect as well, that it's more than good enough. So we're going to get these glued into place because they are currently only clamped, and then I want to board up this window from the inside. So I'm going to rough these surfaces up, get some super glue on them. Whilst I do this, I would like to just say, for the past week, myself, my missus and my 2 kids have had gastroenteritis, which is, if you don't know what that is, I've probably butchered the name of it. But if you don't know what that is, it is an extreme sort of sickness bug, and it has been the worst week of my entire life. My 2-year-old picked it up first, passed it on to my 5-year-old and my missus at the same time, and then I got it a couple of days after. A normal sickness bug normally lasts, what, 24 hours? Well, this one lasted 5 days, and it was horrible. So I've just roughed them up just to give the super glue something to hold on to. Now whilst we're here, let's get this window boarded up. I'll do this off camera because I need it this way and obviously you can't see anything. Got the window boarded up. I'll show you closer after, I just want to get these stuck down. Okay, here goes nothing. Just press it down a little bit. Get the next one ready. This line here, the join line, it's very simple to hide just with a bit of filler. So I'm not worried about that at all. Oh, a bit of glue seeping out there. Okay. Making sure that the stone courses line up, because they do actually repeat the pattern, which is good. Again, simple enough to hide with a little bit of filler. I'll just repeat myself again. The stonework needs painting. This is obviously not the final colour, this is just how it's supplied. So when it comes to the end bit, if I just line that up so it's square, hard to do from this angle, but you can see that down here is a gap, so it's not true. What we're going to do is we're going to eliminate that gap, which gives us a larger gap up here. Hopefully you can see that. Gives us a larger gap up on here, but this gap is easier to fix than said gap down here. Bit of filler, whereas this one will be a bit of a nightmare to sort of eliminate. So whilst I work on the back side, I want to address something that is pretty obvious, and which I'm sure every single one of you has spotted. But just bear with me 1 second. But it's fairly clear that something's not right with this building. But the backside has no windows. Now, why does it have no windows? I'll be completely honest with you. I completely overlooked it. Didn't even think about it until it was too late. So that's why. So again, completely my fault. Just something that I completely overlooked. And the way I've done the interior, it's not going to allow me to add any windows in, which is fine. You know, it is what it is. It's a mistake that I made. Accidents happen, I'm afraid, so we're just going to have to sort of live with it, I guess. So hopefully you can see this line here, the greyness. That's where I've just filmed where the two sections join. I'm now going to film this gap here. So I'm just going to show you a before. As you can see, it's quite large down this area anyway. I'm going to get it filled and then I'll show you what it looks like once it's been filled. And that's now been filled. Obviously this is slightly raised, this section, so it does need a bit of sanding. But don't worry about the mess of the filler, because it just sands off. It dries rock hard like you would like a household filler, and then it sands off incredibly smooth and you'll never tell. All the filling is done, all the way around the building, as you can see. Looking good. That's the gap that I was showing you, but obviously it still needs sanding down and making flush. But if I just show you this section here, so this line of filler I haven't filled to be flush, and that's because that in a sense is actually the mortar line, so that doesn't really want to be flush, whereas this one here running down the centre, that one is flush to both pieces of plastic, because ideally there's not going to be a mortar line running all the way down, so when this is sanded and painted, this gap here will be invisible, whereas this one here will just represent the mortar line as you see between all the courses of stone. Hopefully that makes sense. I think I showed you the blocked up window. Sorry, the lighting's not great at the moment. Anyway, let this filler dry, get some sanding done, and then we can move on. Things are coming fast and furious now. Well, the filler's been drying and I've had the sanding sticks out. Hopefully you can see that this line here is completely flush with the stonework, and then the line running across the top, once painted, will just look like it does between the stones, being a mortar line. I've gone all the way around with the sanding stick. Sorry it's a little bit dark. I should be able to brighten that up in editing. But there we go. For today, that's me done. A few different jobs today. We need to figure out a paint scheme for, well, obviously the main building, but we're going to figure it out on a scrap piece. Now, I think we're going to go with a load of different browns, and it's going to look terrible to start with, but the final two stages will sort of bring it all together, so just bear with me with this. We've got loads of different browns, like I said. We've got orange brown, brown sand, flat earth, gold brown and Iraqi sand. So we're going to do this half with the browns, and then this half with some different shades of colour, and see which one looks best. Like I say, I know I've already said it, but it's going to look dreadful to start with, and all we're going to do is pick out individual colours, individual stones with different shades of brown, try not to create any sort of pattern. This time we've got grey blue, dark compost ghost grey and stone grey. A bit watery these ones, to be completely honest. Who knows, it might look good after. If you don't test you won't find out. This side has now dried. The one thing I'm not happy with is the original colour, and I'm a bit unsure at the minute on how to get rid of that. So I think what we'll try do is a bit of a dry brushing with different colours and just see what happens. A very light dry brushing. See, so I like what that's doing to the coloured stones that I've painted individually, but it's not really having an effect on the original colour. Let's keep going. In all directions. Let's just go for it. Cover the lot with a good coat. And we're just going to simply wipe it off. I've just realised that stone colour's not dried, and I've just put my hand on it. I like it, but the lighting's really not helping this. I like it, but the black needs dulling down a bit. A brown wash. You don't know if it'll look bad until you've done it. So We've got to experiment with these sort of things. I'd rather do it on this piece rather than on the actual model. So I'm definitely happier with this now. Let's do the same thing with this. And I'll bring you back once I've done it and we'll compare the two. So that's the first one we did. The brown coloured stones and then the stone coloured stones. I like them both, but the only thing I don't like, hopefully it picks up on camera, is sort of the grout lines, the pointing lines, mortar lines I should say, are actually black, which don't look right to me. 24 hours later and I'm going with this side. I think that looks better. I prefer that one. Well, I think it's just a case of getting on with it because there's quite a bit to do. So let's just make a start. That's the second colour done. I've not done as many bricks as I did with the first one, or stone if you like, but I've done all the way around. With two colours, we've got one colour to go. 3 colours complete. Just brought the spotlight out to hopefully help and bring it out a bit better. If I hide my face, obviously you can see it's a bit shiny because it's still drying. Most of it's dry now, to be honest, but as you can see, all walls are complete, almost. We've obviously got to take it to that stage there, so we do have quite a bit of weathering to do, but I'm going to let that dry overnight, give it a varnish tomorrow just to protect the paint, and then we can start the weathering process once the varnish is dried. So I will see you tomorrow. Well, I've just got back from the Frising Hall open day and I've got 2 purchases. We've got the Wills slate, which is stock number SSMP203. So we're going to get those fixed now, and then we've got the weathering to do on the building. I also picked up a new board for a fiddle yard, which I'll show you a bit later on towards the end of the video, as a present off my uncle for my birthday, which was yesterday. Let's get these slate tiles fit. And if I get the orientation correct, with a slight overhang, just like that. Happy with that. Okay, let's get the next piece cut and then we can sort of fine tune the top edge to make it look correct again. Trust the old super glue, that one if you're interested. And I'm not going to go mad, just put a few drops on, a bit thicker in the middle. Super glue so we don't get long to get this correct, making sure it's the right way. I've got my guide piece here as well, making sure we're right up to the edge, and that's gripped already, so I hope that's correct. It looks to be. I've got the right overhang on both sides. Lovely. What do you think to that? It's alright, isn't it? Once weathered and painted in, properly done. Now, the tricky part. Well, the way I did it were actually pretty simple. I just kept putting it on and then nibbling away with it with some snips. Much easier than I thought it were going to be. So we're just going to make this edge look a bit more natural rather than cutting marks. Well, I've made quite a bit of progression. No weathering has been started yet, but hopefully you can see what I've been up to. I've got that part of the building all bricked up. The only problem is I've run out of slate tiles. Oh well. But we can now start weathering. Apologies about the squeaky chair, but we've got this is just black Vallejo Modeller, but this time I'm going to thin it down with water instead. So roughly 50-50. Give that a good mix. What I'm quickly going to do is just grab the test piece that I was testing on, and we're just going to go like that and wipe it straight off. And just make sure it's not too thick, it's not too thin. I'm happy with that. I think what we'll do is we'll start with the back, just in case anything goes wrong. I'm not going to weather this because I need to paint the coloured stones on it, but I just want to get the first coat of this done really. Do the roof separate as well. Right, so you can see capillary action taking over there. It's not really doing it there, but this has had, I think in the last clip I said I was going to give this a gloss varnish, and that's just to help the whole wash spread out as it should. Okay, I'm happy with that. Hopefully you can tell in the lighting. I'll double check the footage, and if not I'll change the angle. Bit shiny at the minute because it has got a gloss coat as mentioned to help with the wash flow onto the front. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, I'm super happy with that. Well, that is after the matte varnish. So you can see all the shininess has gone. I mean, having the window right there is really not helping, but I apologise about that. So we have got the black wash done, and we've also done a brown wash. Now it's coming along nicely, but there is still lots to do. We have got powders to do, we've got destruction to do, and we've got the simple things like gutters and downpipes or drain pipes to do and things like that. It's had a few minutes, like I said. I'm not going to apply much pressure to wipe it off. So hopefully with the top down view you can see the streaking. Hopefully that camera angle is a bit better and will show you sort of what I'm doing. Just get some tissue, and we're going to use a relatively stiff brush, which I always do when I'm sort of dry brushing or I'm using powders, so it's fairly stiff. Usually the best brush to use is one that you've not looked after very well. So, black smoke. Just dot it round like so. Okay, and then we're going to completely dry the brush, completely get as much powder off as we can, which is easier said than done usually. We want these to be sort of weather related, so we need these to be going down, and I'm just going to quickly, just gently blow off any excess that I don't want on there, just like that, and then we're going to just downwards motion. Looks a bit madness at the minute, but that's where the white comes in to tone it down a little. White becomes very overpowering very quickly. And I'm happy with that. Moving away from the window light, this side here you can see looks completely different. Once the white's blended in, it's toned all that black down, you can see the streaky marks, just what we're after. Just changing focus quickly to the archway. Obviously it's on its side, but we've got the archway to do, so I've just cut these pieces of wall. Obviously they still need painting and weathering. If we just look in this area here where that missing corner is that I've cut off, what I want that to be is like a cracked concrete sort of effect. The bricks have fallen away. And for the other side of it, if I flip that over, if you remember I accidentally damaged that when I was showing you something else. I was holding it like that and put my finger straight through it, which actually helps us a little bit because I've cut this wall as well. And again, the damage we're after. So it did work out quite well, did that. Well, so these are the walls to the archway, and I've got to be honest, I am incredibly happy with how they look, and I actually think, I'm going to be brutally honest with myself, I actually think they look better than the main building walls themselves. What I did is I did the same process as I did with the walls, so you know, the black wash and the brown wash, and then that dried off. Then I came in with some powders, some black powders, and then some a very heavily watered down green wash to give off a bit of a damp, sort of mossy effect. Hopefully you can see that clear enough, but I'm just starting to fit some gutters. I've done the downpipe there and the section of the gutter that runs along the top, so I've just got this bit to do here, and we'll put another downpipe there. But as you can see, I've actually started some of the weathering. Now I didn't actually film this because I wasn't 100% sure on how I was going to do it, I guess you could say. So it was a bit of trial and error really, a bit of putting it on and taking it off, putting it on until I was happy with it. If we just take a couple of minutes just to sort of, I guess, admire the work that we've done. And we just set the scene, the abandoned lights flickering away, the total blackouts, the abandoned, derelict and forgotten long time ago station building. Well, for this video I'm going to call this good. I've got a few things going on, my boy's not very well at the minute, doctors, hospital appointments, etc. So I'm more than happy at how the scratch building has gone. You know, everything from the detailing, the interior, the weathering, it's all gone brilliantly. And let's not forget, it's the first time I've scratch built anything, period. So the next job now, there is still a few little bits to do, like the windows on the top section and things like that, but it's probably a couple of hours work, something like that, and then that will be complete. Obviously the canopy is still left to do, The canopy is going to be done at a later date, because I think the next stage we need to do is to actually make this start looking like a railway. So obviously that's the interior to the building just there, but we need to get some ballast and things like that down, and it's going to start bringing everything to life. Now, I have made a bit of a purchase, and I've also come up with a name for the board. So the purchase I've made is a 3D printer, and the name of the board I've come up with is almost Hellifield. I think it's fitting. Now, like I say, I've bought myself a 3D printer. It's the Flashforge Adventurer 5M Pro, and there's a couple of test prints. I came up with this. Now this is a simple parts tray when servicing locos, things like that, but we've got the rocket glue that sits perfectly in the back, and we have that. Now, I changed this design because I weren't happy with it, so instead I came up with this. Now this one says Bursar Street Yard on it, so this is obviously Allen's. Compared to the last version, we rounded the corners off, we changed the location, we made the text bigger. Now I will say that the whole 3D printing side of things is a whole new learning curve to me, the CAD designs and things like that, but I designed this from scratch in CAD and printed it out on my printer. So I'm super impressed with that. I have printed some other stuff. I've done some relay boxes and things like that for my uncle, just starting off small, and then we'll gradually work the way up. Now this, there is a link in the description, completely free, no sign up, none of that lot. Actually you might have to create an account to download, but the file is down there in the description. It's on Thingiverse, completely free, and I've also uploaded the Fusion file, which will allow you to change the text to your layout name. If you do, the only thing I ask is on Thingiverse you can upload pictures of your versions of it, so please do comment on my post where that is. And I want to thank you all for waiting so long patiently for this video. Like I say, it is 99% done. I've just got a lot going on at the minute, so I don't want to delay it any longer. Next video, ballasting, scenery, that sort of things. The video after that will hopefully be starting on the canopy. I appreciate you all, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.